If you don't do this, you're headed for trouble. Huge concept here. So when you're talking with someone or you're meeting someone for the first time, we talked about looking through someone else's viewpoint and connecting with somebody else's point of view and understanding where they're coming from and really like focusing on their interests. But when we get to this last stage here, there's one extremely important thing. It's very nuanced, but it will absolutely change like all aspects of your communication. And it's your ability to make somebody else feel important. Sincerely, right? Important. You've got to be genuine. You have to be 100% legit when you go and you apply this tactic. Yet, the instant that you do it, it'll change everything. Because people want to be around people that make them feel important. This is why smiling is so powerful. Smiling says, I think you're important. Same thing with remembering people's names. Remembering people's names says, I think you're important. It's the same thing here, right? If you can make someone feel important, you can change their life. You can fundamentally shift how they perceive you, how they act, and how you impact them, which is huge. So you want to be able to make people feel important. And the instant you do that, they're going to have like a flash, like bam, bam, bam. They're going to connect with you quickly because you make them feel important. And they want to hang out with people that make them feel important. They want to tell people what they feel. They want to connect with people. Everybody wants to connect with people. Everybody wants to feel important. The biggest driving factor behind so many human decisions, a vast majority besides sex, is the urge to feel important. If you can give somebody a basic human desire, the fundamental need that all of us have, then you'll become very likable very quickly. And the best way to do that is to make people feel important. Praise people. Be lavish with praise. Give it out. Give out praise. Tell people how amazing they are. Make them laugh. Most importantly, remember like the details and the individual parts that are going to make them feel important. Because the instant that people feel important, they are going to love you more than anybody else. Because so few people make them feel important. Might be a text a day. Might be, maybe you spend 1 minute sending somebody, have an amazing day text once a day, or I love you text, or something like that. If you can do that, make them feel important. It doesn't have to be like a 20-minute phone call. It just has to be something small or something consistent. Or maybe you have a big holiday, and you're the only person that somebody knows who actually calls them on their birthday because nobody else knows their birthday. Do you think that's going to make them feel important? You bet that's going to make them feel important. I remember one time we had this thing at school. They called it like e-learning day, and basically, we would all go home, and it was like a half day of school, but it was like on our laptops. So like we would just like do work online, and you'd write like papers and stuff like that. And on this one, and you have to like sign into each class, right? So every time a class starts based on like the schedule, you'd sign in and say here for all your classes. And I remember we had this e-learning day, and like 4 months earlier, my science teacher, she told me when her birthday was, right? And so the instant someone tells you their birthday, put it on your calendar immediately, because very, very few people know that birthday, which is just ridiculous. But like so few people know people's birthdays, which is insane. So anyway, the instant you get someone's birthday, put it on your calendar as a recurring event. Whatever you need to do, like make sure you know when people's birthdays are, because you'll make them feel important if you tell them it's their birthday and you say happy birthday. You don't even have to give them a gift; just give them a call. It'll make you stand out over 99% of the people they know because nobody freaking does this. So you write down their birthday, you give them a call on their birthday, or whatever, right? And so anyway, she tells me what her birthday is. And her birthday turns out to be on this e-learning day. So it comes up on my calendar, it says it's her birthday, and it's this e-learning day. So obviously I can't really say in person, happy birthday, and I don't really like have my teacher's phone numbers, obviously. So in the sign-in, I say happy birthday. First person to say happy birthday. And every single person after me says happy birthday, because come on, it's her birthday. And she doesn't reply to it, she doesn't say anything about it until the next day when we have like actual school, And then she's like, oh my God, it was the best feeling ever. It felt so cool. It was awesome. She felt so important. Because just one person remembered her birthday. And therefore, like, everybody said happy birthday. It's this feeling of significance that she desires. Everybody desires a feeling of significance. And if you can just do that one small thing to give it to people, they're going to freaking love you for it. So definitely apply that immediately, because it will change everything. A game changer. Freaking huge. Got to make people feel important. And birthdays, texts, calls, small messages, gifts, whatever. I mean, those are all, and remembering what people care about, their names, all amazing ways to make people feel important. Oh, okay, cool. So this is a great application of it. So, 16, okay, cool. So, Sleepless in Ponyville. So, we start out in Ponyville, and Scootaloo and Rainbow Dash and Rarity and Sweetie Belle decide that they want to go on like a camping trip, which is totally cool. So, they start, and Rainbow Dash and Scootaloo are out front. Scootaloo, she, like, I guess you guys don't know this, but, like, she's, like, always riding a scooter, which is, like, cool, I guess. And she has wings, but, like, she can't really fly. So, yeah, so, like, she's always riding her scooter. Because she's young, so I guess they aren't developed or whatever. So she's, like, always got her scooter. So she's going on her scooter, and Rainbow Dash is kind of flying around with her. And then in the back, you've got Rarity, who's got, like, her sunglasses on, I guess. And she's just chilling out, having some fun. And then Sweetie Belle is carrying this, like, ginormous wagon of, like, just so much crap that's Rarity's, which is, it's kind of a dick move, but I guess what are you going to do, right? And so that's kind of their camping trip. This is sort of where we're starting out here. It's pretty messed up. So this, they're going on their trip, they're going on their journey into the forest, and then the end goal is they get to this cool little, like, Rainbow Falls area where there's, like, waterfalls everywhere, and there's rainbows, and it's the best ever. And on their way here, this is a pretty long trip, so they stop and they pitch their tents, and this ginormous thing that Rarity packed turns into, like, a full-fledged house in the middle of the woods, which is, like, pretty insane, pretty cool. They go through these woods, they pitch up their tent, they have their night, they camp out all night, and, they tell, like, scary stories around a campfire, which is, like, the coolest thing ever. They're having fun, they're doing their thing. And Scootaloo is, like, trying to act super tough because she, like, really likes Rainbow Dash. She wants Rainbow Dash to, like, care about her, because, again, she doesn't really have any parents, which sucks. And so, like, they're out here having fun at the campfire and telling, like, these spooky stories, and Scootaloo pretends to be, like, super tough, but then she kind of, like, goes to bed, and she's got, like, nightmares immediately, and she's just, like, freaking out. And what's cool is, like, in these nightmares, Luna, like, so she's, like, the princess of the night, right? So when Scootaloo's got, like, her nightmares, like, Luna is kind of watching over her and seeing what's going on. And, Luna sees, like, her just freaking out. And then what's really interesting is, like, she gets up and she walks out of her bed and starts to, like, sleep scooter. She's, like, gets on her scooter while she's asleep and goes through, like, this ridiculously dangerous series of, like, obstacles and like, alligators, and it's just insane. It was ridiculous. And then she wakes up and she is just freaked out by both, herself and these scary dreams, but more importantly, these stories. And she can't take the scary stories, and she really doesn't want to let anybody know, but she doesn't want Rainbow Dash to think she's not cool, right? And so she keeps it to herself. She bundles it in, and they go, the next day, same thing. There's, like, one more stop before they get to the camp, and they camp in, like, this dark cave, which is, like, pretty cool, I guess. And they have, like, these campfire stories all night. And Scootaloo wants to stay up all night because she doesn't want to go to sleep because she's so afraid of these nightmares that she's going to have, which is terrible. It sucks. But, she's got to go to sleep. So she passes out. Everyone passes out. She has these same nightmares all over again. She wakes up screaming, terrified, in the middle of the night. She just wasn't ready for this. And so, Luna comes in and she says, Scootaloo, right? You gotta get over this. What's going on? How can I help you? How can I save you? And she says, "Oh, I'm so scared," because they're like in her dream. And she's like, "Yeah, it's just a dream. Don't worry about it." She says, "But it seems so real." So basically, like she's just freaking out. 'Cause she's just scared. She's fearful. She's a young kid, and it's just in nightmares. And she realizes that like Luna's gonna protect her. She's gonna be okay. She has to embrace her biggest fear, which isn't this nightmare, but in reality, that big fear is this fear of rejection from Rainbow Dash. This fear of rejection from like literally the only parent figure in her life. And so Luna forced her. She says, "Look, you've got to come clean. You got to be totally and completely transparent with your intentions, transparent with what it is you're doing and your feelings with others. Because if you're not, then you will never overcome this." And so the next morning, Scootaloo comes clean with Rainbow Dash and says, "Look, this stuff is really scaring me. I'm sorry I'm not like the toughest person or the toughest pony or whatever, but it's just really scary." And Rainbow Dash is like, "Look, not a big deal. If I tell you a little bit of a secret, can't tell anybody, but those stories, they scare me too when I was young." So they start to form like that emotional connection, that bond that comes from a shared experience. Because in reality, Rainbow Dash was just like Scootaloo, but she just acts up now that she's a little bit older. So they have like this really close connection, and they realize that they're going to grow as a team. They're going to grow as a group. And so they get to like this big, beautiful waterfall, Rainbow Falls area, and they have this insane moment where, and just like, by the way, if you were wondering, like over this entire trip, like Scootaloo has basically just been carrying this giant cart and just kind of dealing with it, which is a pretty great attitude. Like if you can power through pain, you can power through suffering, you can temporarily satisfy yourself for the gain of others, that's powerful. And that's how you really, really strengthen these relationships, is by focusing on cutting out, just a temporary loss for you, temporary pain that's going to really deliver a significantly higher amount of value to this other person, which was Rarity. And so that's just a little sidebar, but a very, very powerful lesson with Scootaloo here, as she, shows Rarity, says, "Hey, look, I want to do this for you because I care about you." And that really strengthens their relationship, which is like ridiculously cool. So anyway, so Rainbow Dash, because she can fly really, really well, right? So she flies in the air and she carries Scootaloo, who can't really fly. And then they fly over the Rainbow Falls and they have like this amazing happy ending, and everybody's, joyous, and it's the best day ever. Why does that happen? Take a step back, think about it. How did they get from, freaking out, trying to scare each other, to heartfelt connection? Well, they get there because they gave each other feelings of significance. Rainbow Dash became vulnerable, which made Scootaloo feel insanely cool, because she was seeing a side that very few people saw of Rainbow Dash. Similarly, Scootaloo was revealing her weaknesses, exposing her fears. She was sharing with Rainbow Dash something that legitimately was difficult for her to excuse. It made her feel very important, very significant. Similarly, Scootaloo over here, Sweetie Belle, letting Rarity have the time of her life, not having to carry all this crap, making her feel significant. Rarity is giving tons of praise, tons of thanks, tons of gratitude to Sweetie Belle, making her feel significant. Both of these, sister pairs, I guess, or just pairs, they connect with each other and they get to this final destination, which is a beautiful, beautiful rainbow waterfall area, because they were able to power through this journey of fear, this journey of doubt, and overcome the terrors in their dreams and the scarcities in their lives, because of their personal commitments to their relationships and their ability to self-sacrifice for the betterment of both parties and the betterment of basically the whole relationship. Right, the bond is so much stronger because they were vulnerable and because they made the other person feel significant. So powerful. So cool. So yeah. Okay, cool. So Wonderbolt's Academy. So here's really cool, little backstory. So there's recruitment, and then there's the academy, and then they become a Wonderbolt, right? And so Rainbow Dash really wants to become a Wonderbolt. That's her goal, right? And so she's got to go through this academy. So she gets to this really cool floating cloud academy, and they have this huge runway, which is so freaking cool. It looks like this giant floating Air Force base. And and they have like the first week of academy in a flight school, or not flight school, flight academy, right? So they're like trying to train really, really well, and then also, show off and show that like they're the best flyer and they should be, a Wonderbolt, right? And so it's led by Spitfire, which is just, basically like the leader of the recruitment and the training, and she's like a Wonderbolt. And so you'll see Spitfire a lot, just a character that's yellow. But the important focus on this episode is Rainbow Dash and Lightning Dust. So Rainbow Dash, she really wants to be the leader, obviously, and Lightning Dust is just also another pony. They both want to be the leader. They both want to be the best. They both want to be the fastest. And so it shows, they go really, really hard, neck on neck with each other. And what Spitfire does is she assigns everybody either be a lead pony or a wing pony. So, it's just like a plane, right? It's either, pilot or co-pilot. So kind of like the same mentality with these two. And I don't know what it actually means, like when you're flying, like if it makes a difference, but whatever. It's a status thing. It's a significance thing. It's an importance thing. And it will significantly affect the way that, whoever gets with lead pony versus wing pony feels about themselves. It'll give leaders a feeling of importance. They will up their status and up their ego. And remember, Rainbow Dash is pretty hardcore about upping her ego. So, with that said, these guys fly around for like a week, and they have the best time of their lives. They're doing everything they want to do to succeed, and just to go through the training, go through the workouts. And Rainbow, she goes as fast as she can. Everyone's going as fast as they can. They're all doing their best. And what happens is it gets to the point where they're like assigning lead ponies and wing ponies, and Rainbow Dash gets assigned as a wing pony to Lightning Dust as a lead pony. And she is livid because she wants to be a leader, right? She's like the fastest one ever. That's her goal, is to be the best in the world. And sometimes to get the most out of what we have, to overcome what we previously thought was our limit and to reach new highs, we need to come from a place of loss. We need to come from a feeling that there is so much more potential here. And because of that, you got to push to whole new levels of achievement to realize your true potential. So sometimes these can, where you might have a temporary loss, that temporary loss might be a blessing in disguise that in reality creates ridiculous amounts of long-term success for you, because you go dip and then you bounce back and go huge. You go push harder because you have this motivation to do significantly better than what you previously thought was your best and to succeed. And so that's exactly what happens with Rainbow Dash and Lightning Dust. Rainbow Dash is like, I got to push harder, I got to fly faster, to get my position as lead pony and get out of wing pony. And so they have this drill, and in this drill, it's just insane. They want to go ridiculously quick, and it's like they're collecting all the clouds, right? So remember, the Pegasus, they always have to collect all the clouds. So they want to collect all the clouds and bust through them as fast as possible. So Rainbow Dash just does a normal thing and just like flies through all the clouds as fast as possible and does it, lickety-split. But Lightning Dust, she does something different. She sees all these clouds. There's like tons of clouds everywhere. And she says, well, I'm going to make, a hurricane. I'm going to make a tornado to destroy all these clouds at once. And so she like spins around ridiculously fast and like makes a freaking like tornado, which is like insane. And so there's just this huge tornado. And at this exact same moment, the main six, Rainbow Dash's friends, come up in like a balloon. And so they're in like this hot air balloon because, they can't really fly. And they're flying up to see Rainbow Dash and congratulate her on, being a Wonderbolt and say, hey, what's up? Are you succeeding? Are you winning? Or getting in the academy, whatever, right? And so they're all, here in this little hot air balloon. And all of a sudden, there's a ginormous tornado, like 2 feet away from them, and they get sucked into this tornado, and the hot air balloon just like gets destroyed, and they are just like falling out of the sky to their deaths, which is like pretty ridiculous. And basically like the Wonderbolts come in, and then they catch them, and they save their lives, and they bring them over to the safety of the asphalt, I guess. Now this like seriously pisses Rainbow Dash off, and for good reason, because Lightning Dust, sacrificed safety, sacrificed the well-being of her friends, of Rainbow Dash's friends, for, winning some cloud busting competition, which is just absolutely insane. And so she sees this, she sees her friends endangered, almost die, and she walks into Spitfire's office and puts her, winged pony badge on her desk and says, look, I always wanted to be the best, always wanted to be the fastest. But if being the best means putting each other in danger, and if that's what gets rewarded around here, if, Lightning Dust and her literally destroying people, like risking people's lives is what gets rewarded, then I don't want to be a part of it. She puts that medal, that winged pony badge down, walks out of the office, walks off to the runway, and goes to meet with her friends and consolidate with them. She walks away from something she's been working on her entire life. Why? Because she cares, and she wants to be a Wonderbolt, and she really cares, but not that much. She's willing to walk away. She is more inclined to stick with her moral code than she wants to be part of this elite flying organization. She cares, but not that much. So powerful. You gotta care, but not that much. And what happens is once you're able to walk away from something, it's like 10 times easier to secure the deal. So Spitfire comes out of her office and she's like fuming. She's like, how could you leave my office without letting me respond? And she's like, basically, you're right. You shouldn't endanger people. That's ridiculously stupid. Lightning Dust is getting kicked out because she's a bad cadet and she's endangering people. And you're a lead pony, so here's your lead pony thing. And then she freaks out and she's ridiculously happy, and it's just the best day ever for her, and it's just insane. And all her friends are so proud of her, and everybody's so happy because she's a lead pony now, and she's, actualized that peak performance, that peak potential that she had, and had that huge gain that eventually led her, she's like a lead pony now, right? So she's like at the top rank that she can be in at the academy, which is like awesome, right? So it all comes really from her ability to walk away and to focus on her principles, focus on her core beliefs, focus on what matters, and then also get 100%, the most out of what she has, getting everything she can out of all she's got because of competition that allows her to boost her ego, boost her sense of self, and boost her confidence. How to interest people. You have to arouse in someone else an eager want. If you can get someone an eager want, a desire, you can sell them like literally anything on the planet. And it doesn't have to be like goods, right? It doesn't have to be materials. It doesn't have to be services. It doesn't have to be products. You can sell ideas. You can sell goals. You can sell principles. You can sell yourself. Selling is such an integral part of like everything. And the best way to do that and to get people interested in what you're offering is to develop an eager want in their mind. And the best way to do this is to make them realize, on their own that, wow, I really need you. I really need your product. I really need your service, whatever it is that you're trying to sell. And you arouse that eager want by pushing hard on what it is these people care about. You look through their eyes. You say, what do they care about? How can I show them that this magical thing that is either me or a service or product, whatever, how can I make them think that this is going to give them what they desire? Because the instant that you can make whatever you have fulfill somebody else's needs and desires, you can create an eager want. Great example. Walk in your boss's office. Say, hey, I want to make you money. Do you think that's something that he wants? Probably something that he wants. You can do it. He wants it. Put a little bit more detail in it. Put a little bit more emphasis on what the details are and how it's going to work and what it is that you desire to do to help make money for him. You're going to start to develop an eager want that's going to fundamentally shape the way that you act, the way that he acts, and the way that everyone grows together so that you can get what you want, he can get what he wants because he has an eager want and you fulfill that eager want. So you want to develop this eager want. And super awesome example of this in the Apple family reunion. This is just so cool. So Applejack, she has a reunion every single year with her like whole family, and she's got like this insane. I mean, you can see the picture, right? Just massive, massive, massive family. So many people. And so because of that, this is like a pretty freaking big event. And they have to get a lot of stuff done to make sure everybody is, ready to come together and be friends. And so she gets the barn, it's up and everything's exciting. Because they just like had like this new barn. They're like doing the whole new barn like now. Because they want to have a new one for the family photo, which is like super cool. And so, they're building the barn, whatever. And, Applejack wants to make sure that like everything is perfect for the reunion and everyone has the best time ever. And so what she does is a little bit over the top, but she puts a whole lot of work into it. And like the important thing is to look at where she's coming from here, look at what her intentions are, and then look at what like actually happened and why that happened. So that's what we're going to do. So the first thing that she sets up is there's this huge hayride that everyone goes on at the end of the reunion. And so she decides, there's these things called fruit bats, right? And these fruit bats, they live in all the trees, right? And they're like tons of different colors. And so she arranges all the fruit bats in the trees so that when the ride goes past, the red fruit bats will fly out, the blue ones, or the orange ones, the yellow ones, the green ones. It'll be like a huge rainbow of fruit bats flying out of the trees beautifully over top the hayride. So that was kind of like her first big thing. And then a little bit more nitty gritty, a little bit more in there with what is really going on here is that once the whole family comes, obviously she makes food and stuff like that. But kind of more importantly, there's like a ton of little like specialized things to do at this event. So like there's games for kids. There's stalls for the older ponies to go and like knit and make a quilt and stuff like that. All stuff that has been very traditionally done over and over and over again. And she decides, look, she's going to improve on it. She's going to go hard on it. She's going to make it happen so that it's really like the best situation for everyone. And that was like the decision she made. She said that she will be involved in this process and make it happen, which is like exactly what she does. So she comes in and like tries to get super close involved in like everything and give them like she gives these like 90-year-old woman like electric sewing machines and says, hey, it would be much faster if you use this new sewing machine instead to knit your quilt. And she not not for a moment she stepped back and say, they're doing this so that they can spend time together doing something that they love and creating something that they're proud of. They're not necessarily doing it for this output. They're not necessarily doing it for the product of a quilt. It's more of the quality time they're spending together and the love that they're putting into this product. It's not just the output. It's so much more than that. And so because of that, Applejack just kind of crushes their hopes, their goals, their dreams and aspirations, because now it's like industrialized, and as they're working on these like ridiculously loud sewing mills or sewing machines, like they can't hear each other, right? So they would just love to talk with each other, but with this new way, like they can't hear each other because it's so loud. And so it really destroys one of the core reasons that they actually took on this opportunity, one of the basic, fundamental reasons that they love to do this activity. Similarly, with the kids, right? Like, she makes them go on these, like, huge wild goose chases and hunts and go and do just tons and tons and tons of things. Like, that's not what they want to do, right? They're playing games with each other, not necessarily for the purpose of like finding things or developing skills or growing, their abilities, but they're doing it just to have fun, right? And to be themselves. And that's all they desire, nothing else ahead of that. And what's just terrible is that like that gets destroyed, right? That gets ruined because Applejack comes in and she's really trying. She has the best intentions in mind, and she's doing this for them so that they have a better time, right? And so that they learn more and they grow more. Yet, as soon as she does this, it just ruins their experiences. and they're just working and going on these huge trips and hunts instead of hanging out with people that they love and the family, which just, it sucks. And so a lot of times you approach what could be like a simple situation and you try to over perfect it. You try to do too much. You try to say, look, you know what? We're going to make this better. 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 Going to make this better. Remember, you've got to care, but not that much. Like, yeah, you know what? Set up the sewing stuff. Set up the food. Set up the events. Set up the barn. Set up the hayride. Care a little bit, for sure. But not that much. Should never, never, never be micromanaging what other people are doing at a party. Similarly, apply this to the employment industry, right? Never should a manager, very, 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 very rarely, should you nitpick, the fine details and the fine points about, what your team is doing and how they're working together. Really, really killer movie, Ender's Game, and I guess a book too. In Ender's Game, he's this guy Ender is leading 40 to 80, I think it was 80 kids, on this huge battle to just completely destroy an entire alien race by using these massive ships, and they control them with a remote control station, and they have this top secret global space station that they're controlling it from. It's just so complicated. And so there's this one director standing in front of an entire orchestra of people that are operating the massive ships and commanding the massive ships that are out there on the battlefield, actually battling. And Ender, he has a ridiculous amount of trouble controlling all of the people that work for him, or not that work for him, but that fight under him, when he tries to micromanage them. When he tells one specific person to flip one switch to do, launch one missile in one aspect, or one very, very specific action. And when he does that, he fails. Their ship gets destroyed. The aliens kill hundreds of their people. And by hundreds, I mean hundreds of thousands. I mean, it's just huge, right? Total failure, total loss. And he realizes that if he wants to have success with his military duties, if he wants to really win this war, the only thing he can do is to care, but not that much. Cannot micromanage the leaders of his squadrons, because the leaders of his squadrons are focusing exclusively on leading those squadrons. And his job as the chief leader is not to lead the squadrons. His job is not to lead the troop transport. His job is to lead the leader. Not for a moment should someone leading the leaders be making a command about which bay door to open or which missile to shoot. And the instant that Ender realizes this, they go into one of the largest battles in the history of the war, and they freaking send this ginormous laser beam shooting into the home planet of the alien, and they just explode everything, and the war ends, and everybody dies, and it's crazy cool. So why does that happen? Why is there success? There's success because he's managing all these people, but it's not as direct. He just sets up the infrastructure to let it happen. And that's what Applejack needed to do here. But what she did was she went too deep. She tried to change every little cog, every little gear in the ship. And here it was in the farm. And so because of that, what happens is bad stuff just happens. And so everybody on the end, they all get in this big hayride, and then they're in the hayride. They've got wheels. I guess there's a ton of people here. So these bats fly out and they whisk, around. It looks amazing. They're just a beautiful, beautiful display. But they see, there's a fruit in one of the grandma's hats. She has fruit in her hat, and so all of the bats come on, and their cart's right here, and they all stampede this cart just to get these fruits from her head. And so everyone freaks out. The people that are carrying the cart, everything gets out of control. And so they bail. Everybody jumps out the cart. They all have to bail. It's just a total disaster. And then this cart runs into the barn that was under construction and knocks the entire freaking barn down. Destroyed. Gone. Because of this terrible, terrible design of the system, which was just awful. It absolutely crushed Applejack and her family, they were all so sad. But what did they realize? What they realized is that they had to stick together, and that their bonds needed to be stronger than a wrecked cart or a tarnished barn or a bad sewing experience. It didn't matter, if they had mistakes, because they would come back together to succeed and push through to new heights as a group, as a team, as a unit. And so for the rest of the episode, what they do is everybody works together and they sing this whole big musical number about raising up this barn and bringing everything back together. And they, the whole barn comes back up, and then they take this beautiful photo in front of the barn, and everybody's happy, and they all come together and they have an amazing time, and they renew their bonds, they renew their friendship, and they have a great, great, great time. Because, even at the core, there were mistakes for sure, but those mistakes, they aren't enough to rip apart solid friendships. They aren't enough to destroy quality family relationships. And so because of that, they pursue, they succeed, and they continue to tackle new challenges as they come, no matter what happens, because they are family and they stick together. And that's really what you want to have with all of your relationships, is that everything. Even if you have challenges at work, challenges at business, whatever happens, you guys come back together, fix the problem, and make it work because they're there for each other and you trust each other. Herb says, you gotta care, but not that much. How to Negotiate Anything. Really, really, really good book. Highly recommend it. Oh, this one's so fun. So, Applejack and Spike are in the Everfree Forest. I guess Everfree Forest is over here. So they're in the Everfree Forest, and there's a bunch of timber wolves. Now, how do they get in the Everfree Forest? Well, what happens is Spike is in town, and he's messing with a hot air balloon, and then the hot air balloon flies away, and he gets trapped on it, and he gets plopped in the middle of the Everfree Forest, which is just insane. And so Applejack comes and finds Spike in the forest, and there's this ginormous timber wolf, this huge wolf that's trying to eat Spike, which is just crazy. So Applejack has her lasso, and she whips him away and saves Spike's life basically. And so Spike, they escape, they run away, and they come back home. And ever since that happened, Spike feels that he is forever in debt to Applejack, which is just, it's crazy. So what he'll do is he'll basically, Spike will just follow her around everywhere she goes and say, how can I help you? How can I do something for you? How can I help you, right? And so you kind of see this picture where there's eggs all over the floor, flour everywhere. It's just a huge freaking mess. Because basically what happens is Spike, really, really tries to be helpful with everything that he can for Applejack. Tries to do her chores, tries to help her bake, clean up. But, the problem is he's really, really bad at doing what Applejack does. He's really, really bad at farm work. And so because of that, he just can't really get anything done effectively. And so instead of being helpful, he's a little bit more of a burden, a little bit more of a nuisance, at least on the farm, right? Applejack loves Spike, and they're super happy to be friends. But what he's doing is really not helping. You kind of have this friend in your life where it's they really want to help and they really want to do things for you, and you try to work together as a team, but it just their help, it's not very helpful. And it's hard to push that away because he's really trying. And there is this bond, this connection between the two. But he's just not helping, which is it's a shame. And so because of that, Applejack is okay, well, I saved Spike's life. I guess Spike should save my life now, and then he'll call it even, which is just this crazy idea. Because instead of taking a minute to step back and say, okay, well what could we really do here to equalize with each other? What could we do to make Spike feel good about himself and also allow me to sort of escape this bad relationship where I'm forcing him to do things but he's not really helpful? How can I stop this from happening? And what she decides, instead of consulting with her friends and asking what they should do, she figures out, she plots out this way to basically get herself trapped in the forest under a stone, and then get a fake wolf to come and attack her, and then Spike can come and save the day and save her. and save her life, and then if she saves her life, then they'll be even. So I think she works with like Rarity. So she works with Rarity to get like this floating, timber wolf in the middle of the forest that's gonna like attack her, and Spike will come in and save her, and they'll be even, and they'll be happy, and it'll be great. And so that's pretty much exactly what happens. And she walks into the forest and gives this pretty unconvincing, distress call to Spike, and says, "Spike, help me! I'm trapped under this rock. The world's gonna end. There's a timber wolf. He's gonna eat me." And Spike, calls her out on her BS, and he's like, "Look, you're not like, what are you talking about? It's not. What do you mean?" And there was like, it was like a fake wolf too. And he's like, "Look, it's not real. Come on, what are you doing?" And she reveals it, and she's like, "Look, she really feels indebted to Spike, right? And she just can't stand his help because it's just not very helpful. And she has to stop lying and tell the truth, right? Just lying's not going to work. She's got to be transparent." And so that's exactly what she does. She says, "Look, it's just not working. It's just not helpful." And then a real rock falls on her leg and like traps her. And then a real timber wolf comes and starts to run at her and like actually threaten her life, which is just ridiculously crazy. So like she's in actual danger now. And so Spike has to come in and get rid of the rock and run away, and they have to get out of there. He actually does have to save her life on accident, which is a little bit of a flip. But in the end, they realized that, that it was just an over-exaggeration. Like, this didn't really need to happen. This was a little bit extra, It wasn't necessary if they had just been transparent with each other and understood what their inner feelings really, really were. Because, Applejack, she did not want Spike as a servant for the rest of her life, but she wouldn't tell him that. And so often, you'll have maybe some bad situations you're in where you think, oh, it's better just to not tell the person. Like, someone has their fly down, right? Like, oh, it's just better not to tell them so they don't think I noticed, or so that, we have a better relationship in the short term. Well, here's a question for you, okay? You don't want to tell anybody that their fly's down, so you don't make this short-term loss. And instead, they figure out that their fly is down, and you didn't tell them, and now they have this huge drop in satisfaction and belief in you. Because it's like, well, why didn't you freaking tell me that? Versus you taking that short moment to say, look, your fly's down. It's kind of bad, but in the long term, they feel significantly better because of it, right? And this short-term pain created a long-term gain and a boost in your relationship because you just helped them solve a problem that they had. You just helped them, get their fly done right. It's the same thing here. It's painful in the short term to tell Spike that she does not want his help. But in the long term, it's so much more beneficial than literally risking her life so that she can save her life again and get even with him, which is stupid. So because she wasn't able to do this, she went way down here to a brand new low, which is terrible. And that's all because she just wasn't transparent. So you've got to be truthful and radically transparent with everything you do. Because the instant that you are, everything changes. You don't have to go through this crap where you're pretending to die or pretending to have these terrible, terrible situations happen. And instead you can focus on what really matters. And here what really mattered was just connecting and saying, look, we're friends, Any friend would save another friend. I will save you. You will save me. You don't have to repay this debt. It's not a debt. It's just something that friends do, and it's not a big deal. And that's exactly what Applejack, has to eventually break down to Spike. And so there's easy way and the hard way. And the easy way is to not do anything at the beginning and to take it at your own pace and not worry about it and let it be somebody else's problem in the future. And the hard way is to embrace it right now and make it ridiculously easier in the future so that instead of having a huge problem in the future, you have a little bit of a problem right now and then no problem ever again. And so that's really the way you want to approach everything, right? It's like you can save all this negativity, all that pain, by simply dealing with it now before it grows and before it becomes worse.